90% of the people that I see, they have parasites because it's in the water, it's in the food. If you have animals, I work at a shelter part-time, so I am constantly doing parasite cleanses for myself. The biofield or aura aspects, it's kind of dangerous because parasites also have their own energy. So that goes out into a person's field. We all have a field that radiates from the cells, the organs, what you're thinking about, what you're talking about, and what you're feeling. That goes into the field. Add your ancestral radiation and then add any parasites or Lyme or fungus radiation. If that is part of the equation, that goes into your field. What fascinated me too is when you put an oil on your body, it goes through the blood barrier and the brain barrier if it's real, but it also radiates in the field. You can test it in the field for hours. Even if you go through the TSA, which I'd usually opt out and just go around, but I've had my bag go through it. And if you test it after your bag goes through, it'll kill the frequency on the oils. But 4 hours later, if you test it again, it resurrects back to its frequency.
Welcome everyone to Soul Communication. Today we're going to dive into the topics of quantum. We're going to go into understanding how quantum and spirituality weave together, how we may be using quantum for health benefits and for expansion of consciousness. I'm excited to have a special guest, Dr. Sharnael. She is a captivating multidisciplinary expert who seamlessly blends naturopathic medicine, spirituality, and quantum science to empower individuals on their journey to wholeness. She's the founder of the True TV and author of 5 books, including The Science of Miracles, Remembering the Frequency of Love. Dr. Sharnael offers a unique perspective on achieving optimal health and unlocking human potential. Welcome, Dr. Sharnael.
How's it going?
Tonight is the full moon in Cancer, so it's a beautiful day. You were on the journey for a long time. You wrote 5 books, and you've been diving into different aspects of consciousness. So before we jump into your story, which I'm excited to hear about, what excites you today?
Oh gosh, everything excites me today. We're in a new year, and I know that there's been a lot of things going on already in the beginning of this year that are kind of like, but also at the same time, for me, on my personal journey, I got to spend some time with some dear friends in Florida over New Year's. I was there actually with my podcast host. I have a podcast, and I have had one since before when I was on television. I finally jumped over and my own show on YouTube and all the channels and everything. But 5 years ago, I actually teamed up with a man named Craig Walker from the UK, and I actually got to meet him in real life amongst about 15, 20 other podcasters, including one of my best friends, Laura Eisenhower. And we did a beautiful ritual on New Year's Eve where we basically burned away all the things that are not serving us anymore. Boom, 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 wrote them all down, lit them up. And then we also did a lot of journaling and just writing out what we do choose. And so, yeah, I've been spending the last few days, even now in this beginning of January, just outcome mapping and journaling and really getting specific and using my imagination on, only voicing my choice and getting my mindset straight and ready for this coming year, despite the environment, despite what everyone else is living in their reality. I'm just choosing peace and surrender and acceptance and love and, just seeing how this is going to end up being creative. Like I'm actually doing a online course with a group activity. And we're going to do this all together, and that's going to be fun. And then because it's the new moon, we started a group parasite cleanse, which I do every single month on the first of the moon. And that's free to everybody who wants to join us. You do have to get a certain product because I am doing a test study on it, but that started today. So there's a lot of cool things going on in the atmosphere and in my world.
I love the fact that Laura Eisenhower was with me on a galactic cruise
Oh,
in
right.
winter solstice, and then she finished the year or opened the new year with you. What a small world. And we were just talking about that before we started recording. I think we all somehow connected and we all here spreading this message.
Have you been to the one in Los Angeles that's coming up?
I have not, and I'm wondering how that's gonna go
I
considering
know.
what going on in LA. We send them a lot of love because I know some beautiful souls who were on Galactic Cruise as well had to evacuate or waiting to be evacuated possibly soon. So yeah, LA has been really interesting in terms of like the energies. Curious your thoughts about it because you started saying 2025 feels like a year of abundance. And I feel that too. I feel like we are on the precipice of something great, what we've been waiting for so long. And maybe some energies need to reshuffle in some ways. It's hard to say. There's just a lot of that polarization going on with the with different energies, with darkness and light, and how do we integrate that externally and internally?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more wake up going on. I think things are being overplayed and the stuff that's happening isn't making sense. And it's right in the heart of LA, which we are supposed to have the Conscious Life Expo in a few weeks. And those people, I'm sure, are very aware and very awake, including myself. I'm as awake as I think I am anyway. I, I try not to, I try to say that very loosely because just when I think I know something, I really know nothing. And I try to stay that way because people ask me opinions all the time and they're like, "What do you think about this?" And I'm just like, "You know what? This is what I think right now, but that could change in like a minute." There is so much suspicion and just, I think, shock and hurt but a lot of suspicion in what happened. And I think that is going to cause a drastic wake up for the people of California. I know for a lot of them, they're pretty awake anyway, but maybe not so much in the LA, just like that area. So I know most of California is pretty aware, but I think this is going to be huge for the LA area. But yeah, I was just talking to some people who live there. We were going to meet up whenever we go in a few weeks. And one of the things I love about going down there is going to Venice Beach and driving down Malibu. And, I just love that area. And it's just, I'm sure it's going to look completely different. And yeah, I'm bracing myself because I lived through Katrina and the unknown storm that happened here that they never even gave a name to here in Louisiana. We had 12 feet of water in my wellness center, completely lost the wellness center. And we weren't in the media at all. We didn't have electricity, cell phone, water. It was pretty hot. And yeah, no help for the longest time. This is back in 2016 and then Katrina before that. When I see things like this happen, like in North Carolina and Florida and now California, it's a little triggering. At least they do have the media coverage and they do have the help, but we were the help here in this case. And in some cases, it looks like a lot of people are on their own over there too, with running out of water and some of the other stuff.
It's interesting time. I think we also in this shift of Pluto into Aquarius where some energies not only have to resurface, but Cancer mood is all about home. It's about emotional security. It's about your roots. And now it's like in eclipse with Mars. Mars is the fire, right?
And
It's
war.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, at war with each other. We see these elements playing out, but then also I'm always thinking about the consciousness experience we have right now. The awareness, the celebrities are talking. Like I was just watching Mel Gibson, who lost the house. He was on Joe Rogan actually
I
as
just
he's
watched
on
that
his
too. I
journey.
watched that last night. Wasn't it amazing?
Yeah, these things finally are being surfaced up. So there is that level of awakening of consciousness that's happening and they forced into it. I feel during pandemic, there was a lot of that acceptance of what the government is telling us is true. Maybe now people are going to start questioning, and that's what we want. We want questioning. The more question we have, the more perspectives we have. So that brings me to talking about quantum. Because quantum is such an esoteric term in some ways and sometimes scientific term, and people get confused about it. But for me, I've actually been on a lot of podcasts myself explaining quantum. So, how did you get to be a quantum scientist? What does that mean? How did your path as a naturopathic doctor led you to explore all of this?
I was actually kind of a geek even before I went to medical school. I was just obsessed with miracles, with the supernatural, with the paranormal. I'd always had a lot of weird things happen as a child. I was obsessed with intuition, ESP. I wrote a book on ESP. I think I was like not even 10 years old and just wrote down some of the experiences I was having. I was a part of the Montauk Project from 73 to 76, which was not fun at all, and I don't like to talk about, but I think that that was a big catalyst in kind of fine-tuning things, and to this day, I don't really know if I was picked because I was already like that or if I got better because of what I went through. I choose to know.
Mm.
Um, but either way, it was a part of my journey, and I use it for the positive. And yeah, I've always been so obsessed with miracles, with trying to figure out like why some people can do things and some people can't. I was given a Bible at age 13, and I'm not religious at all, but I am very spiritual. And I do remember reading a lot about this guy, Jesus, who I had an encounter with at 5, but I didn't know that it was Jesus. I just had this encounter. And I was told later in grade 2 that that was Jesus. But anyway, so then I'm reading about him and I'm seeing the stuff he's doing, and I'm like, well, why are we doing that? And it seems like we should be bilocating and transporting and calling things out and changing water to wine and seeing instant healings. And, so it just kind of always put me on a path to just figure out like who's doing this on the planet and how did they get to that point where they are? And like, did they eat a certain thing? Did they sleep a certain way? Were there some sort of rituals that they do? Like, how do you step into that magic, quantum field? And how do you make miracles natural instead of supernatural? And then I think, the seeking paid off because in 2010, I'm sorry, 2008, I was in a very just tipping point of my life, figuring out a lot of different things were coming to an end. My relationship with the father of my children was coming to an end, which was leading to my job being over. I was on television for 3 years and he was my producer and editor, and just the divorce and everything was just very, very, very public and terrible. And so basically we weren't doing TV anymore, and I was kind of at ground zero in my life of just like, what the hell and what the heaven or what's next, and I came out of my bedroom, walked in the living room, and there was these two ginormous, like 14, 15-foot beings of light in my living room. They had all of these books everywhere. There was an ancient desk sitting there. I was terrified. One looked kind of female, one looked a little male. I was thinking maybe I was going crazy. I had all these thoughts in my head, like, this is a dream. Am I going to wake up? Like, am I going to die? Yeah, I wasn't sure what was happening. And they were kind of in and out in the light, like very iridescent, very pastel colors. When the female-ish person, whatever it was, came around to the side of the desk, kind of sat down, very, very tall. My curiosity was, I was just wanting to know what was going on. At the same time, extremely terrified. Came over, went and looked to see like what was this book she was looking at. It was just records and records and records of people who were healed of different things in different ways through essential oils, actually. This person healed of this on this date, and then the next line and the next line and the next line. in my background at the time, I didn't know a lot about essential oils. A matter of fact, I mean, I read about it as far as biblical, the disciples using oils to heal people or whatever. But I've never seen anybody do that in any situation, where people put oils on someone and prayed, or I just not witnessed that. Maybe people are doing that I just don't know about, but I wasn't familiar with that. I didn't know anything about the oils being antibacterial or, frequency, or I didn't know about the chemistry, the phenols, I didn't know about any of it. And so all I know is there's different oils, dates, people, and I just remember being just overwhelmed. And she thought in her mind to me, "What do you want?" And I said, it kind of scared me because her mouth didn't move. I heard her, and it was like an echo in my body. And then I just said, "I want to be a part of that." And then she just like looked at the other guy. The guy looked at her. They kind of shrugged shoulders. I didn't know what was going to happen. And then she got really, really stern with me and pointed at me really firmly. And she said, "Tell them they're not truly living unless they're living true." And then she slammed the book. Everything was gone. I was shaking, trembling, vibrating, whatever you want to call it, like literally from the inside out, like every single cell inside of me was buzzing. I was tears just streaming down, very overwhelmed, felt confused, but also very loved, like to a capacity I had not felt before. Like, sorry. Very, very loved. I just felt like overwhelmed with love and peace. I remember still wondering if I was in a dream and so scared that I was going to forget like what happened. And then I just started getting all this information coming in through me, and formulas and colors and data and words I didn't even know. And I just grabbed the journal that was closest to me, and I started just writing everything I could possibly write down, because I still thought I was maybe in a dream within a dream. And I know I've taught on dreams and vision for years. And one of the things is write it down, say it out loud, record it, that way you don't lose it. And kinetically, I'm very kinetic. I remember more if I say it, write it, listen to it. And I thought, even if I wake up from the dream, if I already saw it and then I wrote it, then maybe it will stay longer. When I wake up, I could really write it down. But I didn't wake up. So then I was really confused because I was like, what the heck was that? And it wasn't until like even a year ago that someone had said something about Akashic Records.
Right. You and I were just talking about Akashic Records.
I had never heard of that in my life. And I don't even know, that might be that, or I don't know if it's like history books or if that means the same thing. I'm trying to, that's why when you said that, I was like, well, how do I get
Yeah.
like, well,
Well, it's so interesting because we're talking about quantum. Akasha is essentially records of everything that's in the quantum field. So it's a storage of information. And as you know, with quantum, it can store a lot of information in a small atom. So Akasha is essentially like records and libraries in this etheric quantum field of everything. So all the information about your soul, all information about Gaia, about Earth, and all. There's earthly records, there is planetary records, there's the soul records, the galactic records of where your soul originated when it distorted itself from the source, where you started and where physical incarnation, non-physical incarnations you had. All that information is available. I think we all have access to it. I've definitely pulled a lot of my memories, past lives, imprints, whatever you want to call them, from Akasha myself. But sometimes I feel like there's like blind spots, like we don't see everything. So it helps when someone has that access to read the records. And sometimes it's like a download too. We were just talking about Debbie Solaris and just had my readings. She literally just closed her eyes and she received all the information at once because it's so immediate. It's all telepathic and there is unfolding of the story of the soul and all lessons it collected over time before they came on earth. So I feel these lessons that we've gone through and some hard ones. You were just talking about Montauk Project. That was touching my heart because I know some people have been part of it or people who've been remembering aspects of Montauk. Why you? Where did you end up being that these things make sense when we layer them out multidimensionally and linearly in terms of what your soul volunteered for and soul contracts we made for some of this work to be done.
That's interesting. Well, I would like to have that done one day.
All the paths you've taken, all the weaving you've done to become a, a doctor and learning how to heal yourself and then to heal others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
So tell us more. How have you started using the oils and then kind of jumped into other things?
yeah. So after that, first of all, I did put everything down in a book. I ended up putting it together in a book called The Science of Miracles, Remembering the Frequency of Love, because
Mm.
love is the frequency that I felt in that situation. And for me, the word remember means to re-God or realign, like to get back into God and to stay. And, there's all kinds of different formulas and pictures and things that I literally had to look up myself to see, hey, what is this? And am I right? And there it would be. And definitely over my pay grade, but I wrote it for myself first and for my children, and then other people wanted copies and it ended up being published. But yeah, I uh, had worked with a doctor locally who knew a little bit about oils and had kind of talked about like the frequency of it and how it works with the limbic system and how it clears trauma out of the body, depending on if you're using the correct type of the oils. I mean, there's unfortunately a lot of adulterated oils. There's a lot of synthetic oils. There's a lot of oils that have different things in it. I mean, even some nefarious things. We did about 30 different companies of testing, and we even found like really, really dark stuff in some of these oils, including like semen, urine, feces. And at first I was like, why would that be in there? But if you think about like the dark side, like that is how they do rituals. That's used for, that connection and to get to the DNA. And if you buy those oils, then you're consenting to it. And so then they have access in places, to kind of mess with you a little bit. And so you have to be really careful, or I have chosen to be careful. Maybe some people don't choose to be careful, but um, learning about phenols and sesquiterpenes and monoterpenes and how they deprogram the cells and reprogram the cells and clear off the receptors. Then, there's just so many things that they do clearing trauma. When he worked with me, I had 28 traumas found in my body that store with different types of traumas that had gone on through my past. And I started working with the oils and knocked it down to 4 traumas, moved out most of them. And I was like, well, got me off at 33 meds, dropped 80 pounds without changing my diet. And I was like, wow, there's something to this. And like I said, I was already in the frequency kind of quantum physics realm. I love neuroscience. So this was just like a walk in, for me just to be able to be like, oh, well, this just is another piece that hadn't been here before. And now it just made sense to me. And that brought in other teachers that I started working with who were very fluent in distilling and processing. And we traveled over, I don't now it's 51 countries, speaking and teaching and researching on different types of plants and oils and different things.
Do you have a specific oil or that you like? Maybe I'll share with you that has like 11 different ingredients. But rose, as you know, what's the frequency of 325, right?
340, yep.
Yeah, 320. The hugging guru was in town in New York over the summer.
The what?
She travels around the world. She's been in many countries. She hugged millions of people. And she grows rose in her ashram in India. So, yes, I got that oil, and like you can feel the vibration of that being grown in a sacred land and given so much love and intention. It's just, yeah. Anytime I put it on, everyone's like, wow, what is that? Yeah.
Yes. We are 67 megahertz on a healthy adult day. So if you start putting rose on and it's 320, you are just, yeah, you're coming up. That's an awesome thing.
So, what's your favorite? Obviously, rose.
I love
And yeah,
rose. I am very drawn to all the tree oils, blossom fir, cypress, pine. My favorite is a blend called Believe. And I had an amazing encounter with that, but I also really, really love cedarwood. But I would say Believe is probably my favorite. That man, I've had some.
is that young living oil
It
or
is,
it is? Yeah.
it is really high frequency, and I've had some crazy tripping things happen with that oil. It's been quite a journey with that oil. But cypress and cedarwood and some of the other ones, I think maybe I'm so drawn to them is because of the grounding aspect. I tend to be a bit out and probably I'm not in nature as much as I should. And I do enjoy nature and I love nature so much, but also that's a way for me to kind of feel grounded.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, if it's not my animals in the house, then I'm not really outside barefoot too much. I choose to make that different this year and to be a little bit more outside, and because there's so much code and energy and frequency and nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are are you familiar with young living oil technique?
Oh, yes.
I used to do it back in the days, the raindrop, right? We were talking about cider, and I remember there was all these like grounding oils more on the vibration of the body, like basil, like plant based.
So Dr. David Stewart was one of the people that was mentoring me,
Mm.
and he is both an MD and an ND. And we taught, I think, 17 courses together over the years before he passed of training people in Raindrop. And then in my practice, I have two Raindrop therapists and then one emotional release therapist, two emotional release therapists in our practice here. So I get raindrops pretty often.
Mm.
And that is definitely one of my favorite modalities for sure. But so you did it, but you don't do it anymore?
No, I don't know. I'm just not doing as much body work on people as I used to, but there was a phase, spiritual evolution, you kind of trying different things. I'm definitely a hands-on healer, but I'm mostly doing Kundalini activations. I have my own oil blend that's more for activating energy and like a spray. My company is called Be Light Alchemy, so I'm alchemizing all the time. And I love oils, of course. That's another level of quantum alignment that one can do.
Fascinated me too is when you put an oil on your body, it goes through the blood barrier and the brain barrier if it's real, but it also radiates in the field. Like you can test it in the field for hours. It's crazy. And even if you go through like the TSA, which I don't do the whole, I know I usually opt out and just go around, but I've had my bag go through it, and if you test it after your bag goes through, it'll kill the frequency on the oils. It just kills it. But 4 hours later, if you test it again, it resurrects back to its frequency.
How would you explain that?
It's ah, it's a miracle. And it happens over and over and over. It's the blood of a plant. It's alive, intelligence. And if it dies, it comes back. It's fascinating to me how these oils are like and what they can do in our bodies and what they can do with our mental and our spiritual. And, you know, it's just a gift from God, literally, definitely.
You also advocate for EMF protection devices, and you have a shop for that. We play with our quantum technology as well. I do have a question for you. How do you measure? You mentioned like after you do a raindrop, there's a way to measure. How would you scientifically measure these experiences and how that impacts someone?
I haven't measured someone before and after a raindrop, no. But I mean, I've measured them physically because I've had people grow up to 2 inches after a raindrop, like because their spine will run. We always measure before and after, and then we just leave it usually on the wall. We'll just take a little post-it and we'll put it up there and measure before and after. And it never fails. People grow because their spine aligns. But I have not even thought to measure someone before and after a raindrop. That's something, maybe we should do that.
I was just thinking using the biowave machine and
Now,
see.
I'll tell you with biofeedback and or ozone, I can definitely tell you that your absorption capacity is a million times stronger. I mean, well, that's a lot. I'm exaggerating, but with the average person, if I do a biofeedback scan on someone, their absorption rate is between 20 and 30%. But if they do a raindrop before the scan, or if they do ozone therapy before the scan, their absorption rate is anywhere between 60 to 80%. Like they just really take in the energies and they really utilize what the biofeedback does on a whole, I mean, 4 times more, 4 times more, which is astounding to see that, like to have actual data.
And what do you think causes that? Is that because they drop more into parasympathetic system? What is happening to them that creates that type of receptivity?
I think it's a lot of things. I think that their cortisol levels probably drop and they kind of get like out of fight or flight. I think there's more ATP in the cells and the mitochondria. I think there's more circulation because so much is going into the blood that's causing movement and motion. We are electronic and frequency is going into the body and then the biofeedback is being sent to the body. So it just kind of takes that ride. And I mean, I'm making this up. I don't know, but I just remember the first time I scanned someone after they did ozone therapy. And when I got the results, I thought, we got to do this again because that's not possible. I did it again and again, and it kept coming like 70% or 80%. And I was like, I've never seen this before, So then I have tested that with Raindrop too, 60, 70, 80%. You just absorb because with biofeedback, we do diagnostics, but then we customize frequencies that are specific to what the person needs based on the diagnostics. And it's interesting, but and you've probably seen this with your work. Um, if someone doesn't want to be healed, or if they just came because their mom brought them or their wife brought them or something, they won't absorb. They'll get 7%, no matter what we do. And they may do a little higher if they did ozone first, because physically you're opening the body up to receive more physically. But there must be some sort of block that we do, mental, spiritual, whatever, that causes that absorption to not work as well. But even if you don't want to be there, I've had, like teenagers that were brought in because their mom made them come and they just thought this was completely stupid and they're just rolling their eyes the whole time. And they had a raindrop before, they had ozone therapy first, do biofeedback after. They're still going to do higher than the average person because their body is physically, like, the foundation is there to receive, whether they mentally want it or not.
It's like a whole package of alignment. The control of the mind is a big piece of it. You need to be open to receive. Otherwise, it's like sending Reiki in a long distance or any type of energy healing. if you clamp up, it's just going to be harder to get anything sent, or it wouldn't work altogether. The person needs to want to heal. I'm just curious because you mentioned the teenagers that were brought in with their moms. Have you ever seen, after like getting one session of Raindrop or Biofeedback, them wanted to come back on their own? Because all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, this is working. I'm feeling this. Something is shifting.
Absolutely. I'm working with a girl right now that I think she was kind of mid on the whole attitude about it. And it was definitely her mom that was bringing her in, but she was also getting to that point of being at the end of her rope with the anxiety and not being able to sleep. And she did the emergency phone calls at the police department on the night shift. So she had a
Oh,
very
wow.
high stress job, even though she was like 18. Her dad worked at the sheriff's office and, um, yeah, was still a teenager. But she was like, when we got her the biofeedback, she called back and she was like, I don't know what's going on, but like the anxiety's gone. And she was just like, I'm in. And, she just said, just whatever you need me to do, just tell me what to do. And I've been working with her about 4 months now. And her every time I talk to her, I'm like, okay, are you good? And I'll talk to her mom, like, is everything good? And she's had some really crazy stuff going on. And even her mom was like, in a normal situation, if this would have happened before she saw you, she wouldn't even be able to get up off the ground. Like the way she's responding, I'm shocked. Like she's just so balanced about like a really traumatic event that happened. And she's taking it like a champ. And they just keep wanting to work. I keep going, you guys are good. If you don't want to come back, I don't want to, and they're like, no, 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 we're going to do one more month. We're going to do one more month. And I'm just like, okay, let's do it. And they're seeing results or they wouldn't keep coming back.
So with biofeedback, for those maybe not familiar with what it is, maybe can you explain a little more what the process is? Like 1 more month, what does that mean? Like once a week? When do you really start seeing the true effects?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do a picture of the actual person and the aura or the biofield. And then we do evox, which is their voice technology, which can detect like what's out. So between the two, and then we use their name, their birthday kind of as an AP address for targeting. Target's not a bad word. I mean, not a great choice of words. Let me think. To have direction on where to send the cu- custom frequencies. But once we get diagnostics, there's about 30 reports that will come back to us through the software that kind of explain where the person's at. It'll look at emotions all the way back to genetics. So if they were incarnated into some kind of fear or worry or anger, that'll show all the way till present. Everything from before born to now. We'll look at hormones, we look at EKGs, we look at EEGs, we look at sleep patterns, we look at psychic issues, whether there's cords that need to be cut and or psychic attack or chanting and invocations, things that, something's coming at them that isn't serving them. We can start cutting that away and or transmuting it, alchemizing it. We look at the major organs. We look at the skeletal setup. We look at major stresses for that day, for today. But it does, even when they do a screenshot of the day, it will show if something is from ancestral or all the way, at birth. Choose to know. We look at, there's so many reports. Choose to know. Anyway, lots of that. Once we get diagnostics, number one, I'm going to look at it as a naturopath and I'm going to say, hey, it says that you need to be grounded. How much are you outside? Can you get in the sunshine? Can you take your shoes off and go outside more? I'm going to give some homework, like physical homework. Maybe you need to sleep before 10 o'clock at night. Maybe you need to go to a physical chiropractor. We're going to look at organs and let's say the adrenals are shot or the organs of the liver is having problems. I'm going to say, hey, when's the last time you had a liver cleanse? So we're going to look at some of the physical things and I'm going to give homework or play work So the person has some responsibility in working with the energies, and it gives us a faster landing point for the energies to anchor in, because I can actually just scan you every 2 weeks for 6 months, and it'll cost a lot more, and it takes a lot longer to get that entrainment into the field and into the body. But if you're working with me and that person is doing, some work with it, then you're going to cut that down to 3 scans or 2 scans or 4, depending on the situation. But so I'll go over the reports and we'll explain, what we're working on. And then we start sending the energies to the person. And then also I do a consult and assign homework. Maybe you need to take a vitamin D. Maybe you need to take uh, some sort of supplement besides vitamin D, or maybe there's chemicals in the home that are causing problems, or there could be parasites or Lyme or fungus that'll show. And I would put someone on some type of parasite cleanse, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, combining it all. I like how you mentioned you do these free parasite cleanse kind of challenges. Talk to us about parasites. What are they? A lot of people don't know about them. And why is it important to cleanse from them?
Yeah, so most people have parasites. I think a lot of people have it in their mind that they have to go to Costa Rica or the Dominican Republic or some third world country to get it. But 90% of the people that I see, they have parasites because it's in the water, it's in the food. If you have animals, I work at a shelter part time, so I am constantly doing parasite cleanses for myself. I also grew up on a farm, and it was very common when we grew up to, support the animals monthly, and then we supported ourselves monthly. And that's not very common these days in America, at least in my neck of the woods. I don't know, maybe other people on farms are doing it, but you don't hear a lot of people doing parasite cleanses monthly, but I do. Um, but yeah, parasites are interesting because physically they can cause all kinds of issues, as we know. Well, maybe we don't know. Maybe some people are watching and they don't know. But from everything to mucus and colds and rashes, lung stuff, congestion stuff, depending on where it is in the body, all the way to cancer, everything is parasites. So the other thing that I don't think a lot of people talk about is it does cause a lot of anxiety and emotion issues, because especially if you're an empath, the energies of frequencies are quite high. It can make someone who is empathic feel a bit crazy because there's so much going on within their own body that they usually pair of sights. Think about that word. It gives double vision. So they're not very easily able to make decisions. They feel confused about things. They might have brain fog. They're double-minded at times, where they think, well, one thing this way and that way, and they can't really make a choice. The biofield or aura aspects, it's kind of dangerous because parasites also have their own energy, like I said. So that goes out into the field, into a person's field. We all have a field that radiates from the cells, the organs, what you're thinking about, what you're talking about, and what you're feeling. That goes into the field. But add that, your ancestral radiation, and then add any parasites or Lyme or fungus radiation. If that is part of the equation that goes into your field or into a person's field, excuse me, and that has a magnet and a radiation, just like everything, we're in this torrid where we're radiating and we're magnetizing. And so what happens is if we have Lyme fungus or any kind of fungus, any kind of parasite, which I would look at Lyme or black mold or any kind of fungus, candida, as also a type of parasite that radiates out. And what it does is it tells the universe that that person is a good target. And it didn't happen on purpose, but after we did maybe 3 or 4 months of the first round of parasite group cleanses, we were doing questionnaires and saying, like, what are you seeing? what is their response? And of course, there were all kinds of physical things. People were crying and having them come out in their mucus and different parts of their body. One lady had them coming out through her eyes. I mean, I've never seen that before, but that was my first time seeing that. Usually, they just generally, if you're doing enzymes and some other things, they just come out and you see them in the bathroom, like when you go to the bathroom. It doesn't hurt or anything. But one of the common things that we kept seeing were people who used to have like a weird narcissist stalker or some sort of weird situation that was going on where someone wasn't paying them money that they were owed or something like that. All of a sudden the check came or the people stopped bothering them or, just weird, not weird, fascinating miracles were happening because that aura was cleared of the static from the energies of the parasites, but also the victim energy was gone. It was sealed. It was nowhere in the equation. So what was coming through is vibrance, thriving, love. Just the act of doing a parasite cleanse is a self-love. So that puts an energetic flow into the field because you're taking care of yourself and you're showing the world that you love yourself. And so that was causing a magnet as well, where they were collecting people who loved them because they were doing a self-loving thing and they were collecting more love. So it wasn't something that I anticipated, but now that we've been doing it almost a year and a half monthly, we took a couple months off. But yeah, that seems to be a repetitive thing. Have you ever
I never knew that what you just explained, the attraction of the parasitic energy into your field is because you carry them. And I'm super intrigued. I feel like I've been thinking about parasite cleanse myself for a while. And I think now probably it's time for me to sign up to one of your monthly challenges. And I'm thinking my husband should do that as well because he has like, mold stuff and things that he's been going through. But you know what? I did want to ask you about Lyme because I had Lyme at some point and then I did do the protocol, like with the enzymes and the herbal protocol and everything. And then I checked in with myself, like I was on keto for a couple of months because I know I love sugar. And I did feel it had like its own consciousness when I started being aware of it. And then I kind of checked in with my body and I felt like I was complete. But then my friend did about me and it still shows that I have Lyme. It's probably dormant, possibly. Is there a way to get rid of Lyme? I live on the East Coast. Anyone who's been upstate New York and in the area in Pennsylvania, all of us have kind of experienced Lyme.
they're spraying it in the air. It's just like mold and parasites. It's more common now than I've ever seen it. But biofeedback definitely helps, clean diet. You definitely can get it into a dormant stage or at least get the numbers down so you're not having the symptoms. But some people have excruciating, like just really, really, really bad symptoms. But ozone therapy is really, really good for that. I don't know if you've ever tried that, but that is something. Raindrop helps just because again, frequency is everything. So if you can get your frequency up so high that some of those things can't even exist,
Right.
that would be my suggestions.
Yeah. I have used, because I have Rife machine at home. There's a specific program that can be targeted for it. So I feel like I've done it. I wish like there was like a parasite cleanse that could just flush it out somehow. Thank you for bringing that awareness about parasites. I think it's so important. And more than that, I know you were talking about how it attracts things. I know sensitivity also with EMF is a big thing. If you have parasites, EMF just really starts triggering things.
Yes. EMF is one of the reports that we do too. It'll test cell phone, appliances. If it's affecting you, it'll show which type of devices are affecting you most. Like if it's a smart meter or, um, Wi-Fi or computers. But yes, heavy metals and parasites are very, very sensitive to EMFs, and that can really cause even more problems for sure. But we are doing our next cleanse on February 12th, and I can send you guys a link if it's something that you guys want to join us on. Like I said, there's only one product involved, and I could send you that information on how to get the product. And that's the only requirement, just because I am doing a case study on that specific product. But otherwise, once you get in the group, there is so much information, and it's a Facebook group, but there's the only people who can get in it are people who have signed up for the cleanse and are actually going to do it. It's a 21-day deal, and there is just foods in there to eat and to not eat. And, we talk about alcohol. I mean, there's tons of information. I mean, I've spent days and months and hours and years on the information that goes into there.
I would love to be part of that. As you start talking about mitochondria, we've seen how quantum technology, scale technology helps the ATP production, the mitochondrial boost. Especially my husband, when we moved houses, he experienced a lot of mold that specifically he was allergic to. And luckily, quantum technology, like ES Center, came into our life. That's when a lot of the quantum awareness came on, and biohacking it in other ways through specific supplementation, all of the different ways. It's been amazing. Brain fog lifted, like amazing results. There's always more, like the parasites. We haven't done that yet. I'm always curious to explore and try new things. In New Jersey, our water is horrific. Talking about heavy metals, also bringing attention to water is important. Not only getting the metals out, but also making sure the molecules are structured. We spend a lot of time on our water and still figuring out how to make the best water in New Jersey. It's rough here with the water, but I'm sure in other places around the country too, they're just not aware that they have water problem. All of these things I feel kind of poisoning us.
Yeah. Well, if you go to my website, first of all, you can get a free gift. I have a free gift available for you guys. You just go in there and put in your email, and you will get one of my teachings on the quantum connection to trauma and how to use frequency to clear trauma. That is on there. But if you go into my services area, it does explain a lot about all the different services that I offer, whether you're in person and or remote. I do soul audits. We do remote back biofeedback. I have my podcast on there. I do interviews on with people, for people as well. And there's a place there where you can sign up if you're interested in being on the podcast. I'm always looking for guests. I do have, let's see what else is on there. My books, of course, on there. I actually wrote a book on keto. You mentioned keto. That's one of my but my card deck is on there too, which we didn't get to talk about, but I really love my card deck. It has all the crystals and explains how the crystals work and gives like a screenshot of what each crystal does and how it helps your body physically, mentally, emotionally, as well as does the companion oils for the best frequency pack combination.
Yeah,
See,
that's great.
yeah, but so
Those 2 definitely go together. That's a wonderful. And so the website, we're gonna put in the notes, drsharnael.com.
yes. And if you go there, you guys can get a free teaching right away. But yeah, the cleanse, I don't know if the cleanse is on there. If you go to my Facebook page, that's usually where I'm posting about when I'm doing the next cleanse. And like I said, the next one is the 12th of February. And I would love anybody who wants to join us. You do have to order the product. So just make sure if you're going to do it to go ahead and order it in time. But then we'll do another one in March. So if you don't make it this time, then you can catch it later. But yeah, that'll be fun. I would love to work with anybody who's out there doing biofeedback. The biofeedback works great long distance. I was literally working on my co-host a few weeks ago, and I had to stop because I had a patient come in real life and use the software on her. And he immediately WhatsApped me and was like, "Did you just turn it off?" And I was like, "You're feeling it all the way from the UK." And, and I've had that happen with multiple people who literally, someone in New Orleans is 2 hours away, hour and a half away. And I was working on her, and she called and she said, "Did you start about 3 o'clock?" Cause she said I had to go home and like take a nap. And it's like, yep, I showed her the screenshot of the exact time we started. And I said, she's like, "This is unbelievable. This is so powerful." And I'm like, it's very powerful. It's the first 2 times I was very, very tired when I did it. But the second time someone did it to me from another state away, I had so much energy. I cleaned my house. I have people who report dreams at night. When I always tell people, put a journal next to your bed if you're going to get biofeedback, because you will dream, you will get inspiration, you will have ideas that come through. And then also we've had people who got money in the mail, or like I said, people just suddenly paid them back that they'd owed them $40,000 from 2 years ago. And they just finally did it because that stuff cleared again. It's like the more we can clear and the more we can make room for love, the frequency of love, then that's what's going to magnetize, and people will just submit to your lowest common denominator. So let's clear this stuff out, whether it's parasites, Lyme, or anything physical, or maybe you need to come up higher with some oils or whatever it is. I'd love to work with any of you guys, and I do appreciate you, because I tell you what, with everything that's going on in the world right now, people like you that are doing what you're doing, not just with your practice, but this podcast, and just the essence of putting good vibes in the air. We need all the help in the air as possible. Just bringing light and hope and education to people. I mean, we need so many people like you.
Really appreciate and thank you for doing your work. And I would love to come on your podcast and we can geek out more about quantum and manifestation and all of that, because I feel we are at that moment in time where it's time for us all to step into our sovereignty and step into our best version of ourselves, whether it's health wise, whether it's spiritual wise. We're really powerful beings. I do feel frequency technology and quantum technology is the way of the future. It's the way of healing. Obviously, the medical community in many ways failed us, and it's up to us to take charge of our health. It's up to us to really learn these things, try them, experiment, be open to experiment, because some people are like, oh, this is crazy. But if you don't try, how would you know? That chronic pain you experience your whole life might be just gone after that one parasite cleanse or biofeedback session. You are here to radiate light and be in optimal vital health. So that's beautiful. So, Dr. Sharnael, as we close, what's your final message to the listeners?
I would just encourage you guys to love and be kind to yourself in this season. I know there's a lot of people going through some pretty heavy, crazy things, and just give yourself permission to heal, to grieve, to create, to remember, to journal, to relax, to have balance, to sleep when you need to. Like, just give yourself that permission to be, because I know it can be easy, at least for me, to get caught up in all of the stuff that's going on the outside, and really everything's an inside job. And we could just be that calm in the storm, and we could radiate that calm in the storm where people can tangibly feel our presence and hold on to that and require that. And I don't mean it in a leechy way, like sucking the vampire type energies. I mean, just be a guide and a rock and a love, if not for anything and anybody, but for ourselves. And I really feel like 2025 is that surrender, acceptance realm, for at least for me, and just really going back to the basics of self-care and putting myself first. And people who do what we do, and people who do healthcare, and people who are moms, it kind of sounds selfish to put yourself first, because we're used to being the ones that are taking care of everyone, and the ones that are getting, to the point of, hurting ourselves to help everybody else. But this is the year where we seek ye first the kingdom, and then all these things will be added. And where is the kingdom? This is the kingdom. And follow those little voices, or the voice that is saying, go this way, go that way, be kind, sleep in, write, journal, or whatever, go outside, drink more water, all those little hints. And it's like this Kleenex box sitting here. You don't know what's at the bottom, But sometimes when you can't figure things out, you get that little hint to go do that thing. And when you go do that thing, all of a sudden you get another inspiration. You're like, oh, I just got an answer that I've been waiting for. So when we seek ye first the kingdom and pay attention to that voice, then all these things will be added. So I just really encourage people to follow that guide, that inner GPS, the God positioning system within.
Love that. The God position system with it. With that, thank you so much. And thank you for everyone for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. You can visit my website, dianadivine.com, where I'm now offering a special Quantum Master Creator free ebook that will help you to create the conscious dimensional life that you want. I'm also offering other programs, one-on-one sessions such as Quantum Healing Hypnosis and Quantum Crystalline Soul Healing to help you in your vibrational alignment. On sourcelanguage.org, I'm offering a digitized course that is self-paced to open you to the divine gift of light language. I'm Diana Divine, and keep connecting with your higher self.